We have only one plan, that's to stay open.
Small businesses like gyms are saying there is no way they're shutting down again, saying they have no other option to stay afloat and are in full compliance with the health order. Our ABC 10 News reporter Cassie Carlisle tells us how gyms are lawyering up for the ensuing fight.
We have only one plan, that's to stay open. We don't have the option to keep closing, opening, closing, opening.
Wednesday at Metroflex Gym in Oceanside, their regulars came in to find comfort in their routine. Something owner Lou Uridel says many are seeking right now.
We're continuing to get a lot of new gym members. We have stopped signing up people as of today.
Monday, the governor said due to a spike in cases, a long list of indoor businesses needed to close by Wednesday morning, including gyms. The county announced this week they're putting together strike teams to ensure businesses shut down.
Definitely doesn't scare us.
Uridel said he and about a dozen gyms hired a lawyer who will fight the county, including Boulevard Gym owner Sean Gilbert.
What Newsom did this time is unlawful. I find it criminal.
Uridel says they are in compliance with the health code with hand washing protocol, social distancing, cleaning every hour, and fans to move air through the open bay doors. Uridel says if they close, they won't reopen.
I feel like it would be a betrayal of my faith and it would be a betrayal of my dreams to give up on that, just close down.
Saying he'll take whatever the county throws at them. He's already been fined and arrested for staying open. He said his members drive him, helping military members through PTSD and others through the trauma of coronavirus.
When he told me that this is what saved his life again, it just, just made me realize that that's exactly what we have to do.
Trying to keep the doors open and stay afloat. Cassie Carlisle, ABC 10 News.
And our county leaders say they are just following the state's guidance, and in order to decrease cases and reopen sooner, these are the restrictions in place.
Because I think God wants us to be together as much as we can be.
Amid the new COVID restrictions, some local churches are expected to begin holding services outdoors. As ABC 10 News reporter Michael Chen tells us, some communities will be opening up parks for those services.
I want you to encourage your own heart today.
At Shadow Mountain Church in El Cajon, the sounds of the gospel.
We're not getting any echo. It feels very intimate.
Just got a little more crisp.
It feels like church.
Pastor David Jeremiah says last month when it became clear COVID capacity restrictions would be too limiting indoors, they decided to move their services outside.
And it turned out that it was almost like a perfect amphitheater.
A stage was set up in one of their parking lots. The sections seated off by families, each grouping set 6 feet apart. Services have been moved to the evening to escape the heat. Masks and bottled water handed out for those who need them. And any singing is mostly limited to musicians on stage to minimize the coronavirus risk.
It's just become our way of doing church. It's the only thing we can do, so that's what we do.
It's also going to be what other churches do after recent COVID restrictions banned indoor church services. In Poway, officials just approved a plan to share park space with places of worship and fitness centers. The city of El Cajon weighing a similar plan.
But ask God to give you a fresh dream.
Those actions, Jeremiah says, are much needed because there is no substitute to gathering in person.
Church is when God's people come together, and we want to make it possible for people to come together as much as we can within the context of what we're experiencing with this pandemic.
Michael Chen, ABC 10 News.
Jeremiah says between 800 and 1,000 people turn out for each of their 2 weekend services. El Cajon officials say a vote on their shared space plan could come in late July.
Today, a local doctor put the severity of COVID-19 into perspective. This comes as the county reports more young people are getting sick and are showing more complications.
We know that there are effects on cardiac function in terms of heart failure and irregular heart beating. We know that there are complications with the kidneys, blood system, liver, and those complications may be much longer lasting than people have recognized.
Dr. Scott Insman added that smoking and vaping can also increase the risk of complications from COVID-19. All right, here's the latest on the coronavirus cases in San Diego County. We had 559 new cases reported today. That brings our total to well over 21,000. 12 more deaths were also reported, bringing that total to almost 450.
We're getting our first look at in-person classes in the age of coronavirus. Cajon Valley Union School District welcomes students back to campus this week. ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer De La Cruz walks us through a typical day for students and teachers.
All of our reaction from parents has been extremely positive.
Principal Brian Hanley shows us how drop-off has changed in Cajon Valley Union School District.
They arrive here at our check-in station. They'll have their temperatures scanned and a health assessment performed.
From there, they're escorted to class where they'll stay in small groups and wear face coverings throughout the day. Today, we're going to be learning more about the moon. The district reopened 27 schools to about 3,000 students for their summer programs this week. For some parents, it couldn't come soon enough.
When they were doing it online, the classes, a lot of times they were tired and they didn't want to do it. So being here at school, I think they pay more attention. So after, about 2-3 months that they were at home doing nothing, they're excited to come out.
The district's reopening comes after San Diego Unified and Los Angeles Unified Schools announced they will not be returning to in-person classes in fall. School board member Karen Clark Mejia says it's been quite an adjustment so far.
There's some learning curves, of course, because students want to hug their teachers. There is that level of touch that's needed, but we're all adapting. And again, it's exciting to see our whole district that is making changes to accommodate those that are willing to go back to school.
The district sent parents a survey about returning to school in fall. 60% said they want students back on campus full-time. 20% want a hybrid option of online and in-person learning. The other 20% want full-time distance learning. The district says they're using summer school as a test run to prepare to welcome even more students back in fall. Jennifer De La Cruz, ABC 10 News.
The district is giving families the option of distance learning, hybrid learning, or coming back to campus full-time. Rite Aid is opening new testing sites across the county. Each will provide self-swab nasal tests. You don't have to be showing coronavirus symptoms in order to get tested, but you must be at least 18 years old and register ahead of time. The locations are listed on your screen. They're in Alpine, Fallbrook, Lemon Grove, Oceanside, and Valley Center. Tests will be administered Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and weekends from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Health experts are sounding the alarm about a plan to remove the CDC from the process of collecting data from COVID-19 patients. As ABC's Alex Perche reports, some fear this will allow the Trump administration to politicize the pandemic.
The battle between science and politics over the coronavirus continues to heat up. The New York Times and Washington Post both reporting the Trump administration ordered hospitals to send all COVID-19 patient information to a central database in Washington, bypassing the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The change has some health experts worried that unpopular data could now be hidden or politicized.
We're all in the same team, including Dr. Fauci. I have a very good relationship with Dr. Fauci, and we're all in the same team.
CDC Director Robert Redfield insisting today on a call with reporters that his agency isn't getting sidelined. But critics see it as the latest effort by the Trump administration to lessen or discredit the CDC's role in fighting this pandemic. On Monday, the president retweeted a completely unsubstantiated post from former game show host Chuck Woolery, accusing the CDC doctors of lying to Americans. He later deleted that tweet.
The president, with his intent in that retweet, expresses displeasure with the CDC.
The president was apparently unhappy with a leaked internal memo from the CDC casting doubt on states' preparedness to reopen schools this fall. In response, 4 former CDC directors penned this op-ed. The group, who worked under both Republican and Democratic administrations, said they cannot recall a single time when political pressure led to a change in the interpretation of scientific evidence. Also under attack, Dr. Anthony Fauci. White House trade advisor Peter Navarro ripped into Fauci in a USA Today op-ed, claiming Fauci has been wrong about everything I have interacted with him on.
Well, he made a statement representing himself. He shouldn't be doing that.
That follows an unflattering cartoon about Fauci posted on Facebook by the White House's social media director. Fauci responding to the attacks with some of his strongest language yet.
It is a bit bizarre, and I think if you talk to reasonable people in the White House, they realize that was a major mistake on their part because it doesn't do anything but reflect poorly on them.
And specifically on Peter Navarro.
I can't explain Peter Navarro. He's in a world by himself.
Also being scrutinized again today is the president's rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma about a month ago. The state's governor, who was at that rally, admitting today that he has tested positive for the virus. In a statement, the White House wishing him a speedy recovery. Alex Brachet, ABC News, Washington.
New developments now, nearly 2 months after George Floyd was killed by Minneapolis police during an arrest. His family is now filing suit against the city and the police officers involved. Floyd's death gave fresh relevance to the Black Lives Matter movement, sparking protests across the country. Here's reporter Nadia Romero.
His death sparked a movement and demands for justice. Now the family of George Floyd is filing a federal wrongful death civil rights lawsuit against the city of Minneapolis and the police officers involved in Floyd's arrest.
But it was the knee of the entire Minneapolis Police Department on the neck of George Floyd that killed him.
While charges have been filed against the 4 former officers implicated in his death, attorney Benjamin Crump says the goal of the suit is to serve a larger purpose.
And with this lawsuit, we seek to set a precedence to make it financially prohibitive that the police won't wrongfully kill marginalized people, especially black people, in the future.
Floyd's death is forcing a reckoning around the world over racial inequality and police brutality, and shining a light on other Black Americans killed by police, including Breonna Taylor, who was shot 8 times while Louisville police executed a no-knock warrant in a narcotics investigation. On Tuesday, protesters gathered outside the home of Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, demanding justice. 87 protesters were arrested, including Real Housewives of Atlanta star Portia Williams, granddaughter of civil rights activist Hosea Williams. I'm Nadia Romero reporting.
San Diegans rallying around sailors impacted by the big fire aboard the USS Bonhomme Richard.
This is such a beautiful sight to see humanity come together.
How local groups are working to help them. Plus, the new bill that could ban the use of middle seats on flights. And one of the largest collections of jazz music by Black artists being gifted to SDSU.
It really dropped me to my knees.
Coming up, a closer look at the rarities dating back to the 1920s. ABC 10 News is back in 90 seconds.
We have some breaking news in Mountain View where San Diego police are investigating a homicide. Our 10 News breaking news tracker is there right now outside this apartment complex. This is near Imperial and the 805. It is still very early in the investigation. The officers, they are now questioning witnesses at the moment. Of course, we will stay on this scene to learn more and have an update as soon as we do have more information. In the meantime, crews are making significant progress putting out that 4-day-old fire on board the USS Bonhomme Richard at Naval Base San Diego. So far, 40 sailors and 23 civilians have been treated for injuries related to Sunday's fire. In the meantime, many sailors are left without a place to work and some are left without a home. Our ABC 10 News reporter Leah Pizzetti shows us how local groups are working to help those displaced sailors.
It's cardboard boxes filled with small items.
We got loofahs over here.
But during a week like this, these small items become huge. Navy veteran Bob Washburn knows that from deployment.
You run out of this, and it's just such a great, it's just a tiny little bottle of like men's care, like body and face wash. It changes, it's like the changes everything.
The burning USS Bonhomme Richard is not just a ship, it's a home.
Their personal belongings were on there. They lived and breathed and worked on this ship.
USO Executive Director Ashley Kamak says the sailors who lived there now need immediate help.
They're going through something personally, professionally. These are human beings.
So she and volunteers are filling boxes with anything they might need. And it's not just this room of people stepping in to help.
They're sort of trying to find any open product.
The phone has been ringing off the hook. People calling to ask what supplies are needed.
Good afternoon. Thank you for calling the USO Liberty Station.
Then constant donations dropped off, like Gregory, an active duty sailor.
Pretty good. How about yourself?
And every day since the fire started, the USO loads the donations into a truck, then drives them down to the pier and hand delivers them to crews battling the fire and the people who need the instant relief.
This is such a beautiful sight to see humanity come together and say, I just want to help. We have all other challenges right now that we're all facing, but when things happen, people's hearts open up, and this is what you see.
Right now, something as small as a toothbrush means the world to a hero in need. Leah Pizzetti, ABC 10 News.
And we're asked to be cautious. There are some fake groups out there saying that they are taking donations for the Navy. The 3 groups to donate to are NMCRS San Diego, Support the Enlisted Project, and of course the USO.
The pandemic isn't bringing home prices down in San Diego. In fact, they're rising. According to Zillow, the average home price in May was $601,000. That's 3.5% higher than last year. However, new listings of affordable homes are 25% lower than last year. The 2021 Rose Parade has been canceled for the first time in 75 years. Organizers say large crowds are too risky. According to the LA Times, the Tournament of Roses is months behind in preparations due to stay-at-home orders. High school bands scheduled to march in the parade have not been able to practice, and international marching bands are also facing travel restrictions. The Tournament of Roses says it's looking to host a televised celebration. The Rose Bowl football game is still planned for January 1st.
This 10 News Pinpoint Weather Report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air. Nobody wows clients like we do.
ABC 10 News meteorologist Angelica Campos is joining us live from home. It feels pretty warm out there today.
Yes, at the coast, it actually a couple of degrees warmer inland. It's still really nice and actually a little bit cooler. So we had a little bit of everything today, Lindsay. Certainly a really nice day around the county nonetheless, even if it felt just a little bit warmer. In PB, a busy afternoon. Downtown San Diego looking stellar right now with just picture perfect conditions. 73 degrees. We had 75 about an hour ago. So exactly what you expect in San Diego. The winds out of the west at 9 miles per hour, humidity at 64%, and the visibility, it is perfect. The winds are gusting at the coast. San Diego, 17 miles per hour. Also in Julian, 14, 12 in Mount Laguna. Not bad though. Just a nice breeze to make it feel a little bit better in the places where it did warm up, including IB, La Jolla, Carlsbad, and Oceanside, adding 1 degree since yesterday at the same time. A couple of degrees cooler in Escondido, Poway, and El Cajon, but in Ramona, it's actually the same as yesterday. Right now, 81 degrees there, 81 in Escondido, and 78 in Alpine. In La Jolla, a comfortable 68 degrees, but of course we know not everyone is as lucky. As you travel to the deserts, 104 to 110 from Borrego to Ocotillo Wells. Our headlines. A great Wednesday, another comfortable day tomorrow, expecting conditions to be nice throughout the day with low clouds early morning before it clears, becomes sunny, and then a warm up expected into the weekend. But temperatures will be about 5 to 8 degrees cooler than last weekend. So even though it heats up, it will not be as excessive. Our marine layer futurecast keeping it cloudy through 6 a.m. from the coast to basically the 15 areas like Escondido, Poway. You're going to see some patchy clouds early morning, but it'll be mostly sunny. And even at 9 a.m. at the coast, expecting sunny skies, which will allow temperatures to warm up once again. The pattern is zonal, moving from west to east to no big changes, which is just kind of keeping this warm weather in place. We'll see a ridge of high pressure expanding as we go into Friday, and then that same ridge is going to get a little bit weaker, but it's all about its placement and the wind flow. So if you start getting the winds out of the south, that most likely is going to pull in some monsoonal moisture. We're expecting to see that flow targeting areas into Arizona, mountains, deserts as early as Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Our 7-day forecast will bring some low clouds early morning, becoming sunny, highs in the mid-70s for the coast, mid-80s inland, comfortable Thursday, near 90 over the weekend. Winds out of the west, gusty at times in the mountains, but a comfortable 78 degrees, and deserts, plenty of sunshine. Also windy in the afternoon, gusting up to 30 miles per hour. Back to the studio.
All right, thanks, Angelica. New research says eliminating the middle seat on airplanes may help cut the risk of coronavirus.
I don't see why you should be selling middle seats.
Coming up, the proposed bill making its way through Washington.
Walmart is the latest store to require face coverings in all stores nationwide. The retailer says about 65% of its locations are in areas where face masks are already mandatory. The company says it will place health ambassadors at the store entrances to remind customers of this new requirement. Sam's Club, Best Buy, and Starbucks recently announced the mask requirement as well in all of their stores. It is perhaps the biggest fear of airline travelers during this pandemic, getting on an airplane, finding it's completely full with all the middle seats booked. But now there is a question of whether that should be allowed at all. As reporter Joe St. George explains, a member of Congress is introducing legislation to ban the sale of those middle seats.
Louisiana had one of the first virus outbreaks.
Cheryl Ann Blaine just took her first flight since the pandemic began. She's careful. Her mask is always on. In fact, she stayed away from her friends for 2 weeks ahead of today's flight to Reagan National.
We quarantined ourselves for 2 weeks before these flights.
Going into today, Cheryl Ann was nervous. Videos like this of packed flights are emerging around the country. She flew American Airlines, which is not blocking off middle seats. And while she tells us her flight today wasn't that crowded, the mere thought is worrisome.
I don't see why you should be selling middle seats.
In fact, American Airlines, United, Allegiant, Sun Country, and Spirit are all allowing middle seats to be sold and occupied on their aircrafts. Tonight, some are asking, should lawmakers step in and stop middle seats from being sold? After all, airlines have received billions of dollars in bailouts from taxpayers in recent months.
It has to make a difference when somebody is that close to you.
Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon is on board. He's sponsoring legislation to ban the sale of middle seats until this pandemic is over, after recently taking this full flight. The senator taking to heart what Dr. Anthony Fauci told a Senate panel recently about airlines selling those seats.
I mean, obviously that is something that is of concern.
Fauci's concern may be backed by a recent study. MIT found the odds of getting COVID-19 on a full flight is around 1 in 4,300. However, when middle seats are empty, the odds improve to 1 in 7,700. Delta and Southwest, they're blocking the sale of middle seats on their aircrafts, but that's only guaranteed through the end of September. And the CEO of Delta recently said he would be against any bans from Congress.
I'm not an advocate for adding regulation at this point.
So for now, remember to check airline policy before you fly, and maybe you'll get lucky and find an empty airport like Cheryl Ann.
It's like deserted.
At Reagan National, I'm Joe St. George.
While some local school districts are welcoming students back to campus, others are preparing to hold classes online. Coming up, why things could still change. Plus, the impact the pandemic could have on high school sports this fall.
ABC 10 News at 5 starts now.
Another day of alarming coronavirus numbers across the country.
Deaths are on the rise in 25 states, and 14 states are reporting record hospitalizations. ABC's Trevor Ault looked at how some red state governors are now responding.
Across America, more and more states are seeing COVID-19 numbers rise. Cases are up in 41 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. Hospitalizations are rising in 2/3 of the country, and deaths are climbing in half of the United States. Florida has now surpassed 300,000 confirmed cases. And in Alabama, Governor Kay Ivey says in the past 2 weeks, COVID cases jumped 50% and hospitalizations rose significantly. She's now made masks mandatory. Oklahoma's Governor Kevin Stitt has now tested positive himself, but says he won't issue a mask mandate.
I'm just hesitant to mandate something that I think is problematic.
As communities weigh the risks of returning to school, in South Carolina, Governor Henry McMaster has given public schools until Friday to submit their reopening plans, saying parents need a choice between sending their children to school or using virtual learning.
Virtual education is not as good for most children as face-to-face, in-class education, teaching with an excellent qualified teacher, of which we have an abundance.
The National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Math says without a comprehensive plan using federal resources, in-person learning could put students in danger. And that would be especially true for communities of color and the poor.
Different communities are disproportionately impacted by this disease. The same families that need to send their students to schools because they are essential workers in this economy are also the same families that are hardest hit by this pandemic. And they're also the same families who are sending their students to the least resourced schools.
And beyond seeing a rising number of confirmed cases, 38 states are reporting a rising rate of positive tests. And that's happening as many states are enduring lengthy wait times getting their test results back because the demand for tests is so high. Trevor Ault, ABC News, New York.
And here in California, we are shattering several of the worst state records for coronavirus. More than 11,000 Californians tested positive yesterday. That's well past the previous single-day record of 9,800. More than 6,700 people are hospitalized right now for COVID-19. That's also a record. Yesterday, 144 Californians died. That is the second highest number of deaths in one day since the pandemic began.
As we mentioned earlier, Cajon Valley Union School District has kids heading back to the classroom already, but that's not the same for all districts. Both Sweetwater Union and Chula Vista Elementary announced this week that kids will only be distance learning when classes start back up, but the rest of the school year is still in flux. The superintendent of Chula Vista Elementary School District sent out this letter to parents and staff, letting them know they would follow others in the county and start the year only with distance learning. Dr. Francisco Escobedo told 10 News the decision was made with safety in mind.
If you don't have a safe and nurturing environment, learning just can't take place.
The district is sending out registration information later this week so families can give feedback about what kind of learning they're comfortable with. Dr. Escobedo says they will reassess and give updates at least every 2 weeks.
Just keep our parents apprised with any new information that we receive.
Depending on the countywide numbers, the district could allow a mix of in-person and distance learning eventually, but know some families may want to be extra cautious.
They won't feel safe until we have a vaccine, right? And so we always want to have that online option for parents as well.
Also announcing plans for distance learning come fall, Sweetwater Union High School District. Although details are limited, parents, students, and staff have been told the first 4 weeks will be virtual. Amid ongoing budget turmoil and cutbacks, the district also said it would be reopening 3 learning centers and restoring library service. Now, both Chula Vista and Sweetwater tell 10 News more details will be released about back to school in the coming weeks.
And next week, the CIF will make a decision on its plan for fall sports. But as our ABC 10 News reporter Steve Smith tells us, one high school football coach is encouraging parents to step up and have a voice.
The Scripps Ranch Falcons reached the CIF championship game a year ago. Now, due to the pandemic, there are big concerns about football and fall sports in general for the 2020 season. That said, participation at summer workouts at Scripps Ranch is currently up.
Between the parents deciding that they want their kids on campus and 30% more of them sending their kids out to football this summer, they have been cooped up for some time. We want them out of our house and a controlled activity.
Of course, safety being a top priority.
We take everyone's temperature. We ask them 5 symptom-related questions before we let them loose. They arrive masked.
The decision to return to high school sports for the fall season is not an easy one, and it led Coach Gardnera to form LetFamiliesDecide.org, where families were able to voice their opinion as to whether their kids should return to sports.
Okay, if everybody clearly wants them in school, what do we have to do to give them a voice in letting them get back to high school sports? And I'll just use Scripps Ranch High School as an example. 94.7% of the families at Scripps Ranch said not only do they want their kids back in school, but they want them on campus.
So the $64,000 question, should fall sports return if students are not back on campus?
That's a tough call. My personal opinion, I think to some degree, yes. Most of the sports we're going to participate in are outdoors. Some of them naturally lend themselves to social distancing.
And CIF is expected to reach a decision on the fall season July 20th. Steve Smith, ABC 10 News.
LetFamiliesDecide.org will keep parents up to date on the latest news, as well as provide a platform to reach out to the CIF and school officials.
For the first time, the pride flag will be raised over the county administration building along the Embarcadero. This is video from past years of the traditional flag raising during Pride in Hillcrest. County leaders will hold a ceremony for the raising of the flag Friday morning. Friday night, the building will be lit up in rainbow colors. Because of coronavirus, this year's Pride celebrations will be held online.
We talked with the mayor of Poway, Steve Voss, after the shocking guilty plea from Rabbi Yisrael Goldstein. Goldstein pleaded guilty yesterday to federal tax fraud charges. Investigators say that he took donations on behalf of the Chabad of Poway and charitable organizations. He then took some of that money himself, then funneled up to 90% of it back to the donors, who could then get tax breaks. Mayor Steve Voss stood by Goldstein in the wake of this deadly synagogue shooting. He says the new revelations sting especially hard.
Sick to my stomach, just shocked, disappointed, disgusted, and really just heartsick for the congregants.
Goldstein will have to pay back millions of dollars to the government. The U.S. Attorney's Office recommends he be sentenced to probation.
New fallout for Nick Cannon, who was fired by Viacom CBS following anti-Semitic comments made on his podcast.
We are the same people that you who they want to be, that's our birthright.
The 39-year-old television host and San Diegan is facing criticism for his comments on a recent episode of his YouTube series, Cannon's Class. He discussed racial bias with a former Public Enemy member, Professor Griff.
So the people that don't have it are a little, and I'm gonna say this carefully, are a little less.
Viacom CBS says it's cutting ties with Cannon for his, quote, hateful speech and anti-Semitic theories. Cannon apologized to the Jewish community for his remarks in a Facebook post. Ghislaine Maxwell secretly married, but prosecutors say she won't reveal her husband's name. The bombshell mystery unfolding. And you can now stake your claim in Apple's $500 million iPhone slowdown settlement.
He is utterly incapable of leading this country. And it's dangerous to allow him to do so.
That is President Trump's niece, Mary Trump. She is speaking out for the first time since the release of her new book, Too Much and Never Enough: How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. It is full of embarrassing anecdotes about the president, including that he cheated on his SATs, but many of the claims are not backed up with any proof.
Can I prove? No, because I'm counting on people I trust who told me this story.
In her exclusive interview with ABC's George Stephanopoulos, Mary Trump says she thinks her uncle should resign. The White House says the book is full of lies. And new bombshell developments in the case against Jeffrey Epstein's alleged accomplice and former lover, Ghislaine Maxwell. As ABC's Irene Shaw reports, prosecutors revealed in court that she's married.
Jeffrey Epstein's alleged accomplice and former girlfriend likely behind bars until her trial next July. A judge denying Ghislaine Maxwell's bond, saying she poses a substantial actual risk of flight because of her vast wealth and international contacts.
It's a way for prosecutors to continue to apply real pressure to the defendant in a criminal case.
Maxwell pleaded not guilty for charges for allegedly grooming girls as young as 14 for abuse by Jeffrey Epstein in the mid-90s. Lawyers for alleged victims saying the women feel vindicated. For years, several of Epstein's accusers claimed Maxwell was involved in facilitating Epstein's abuse of them.
We need to get to the bottom of everybody who was involved with that, starting with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Another woman, Annie Farmer, confirming for the first time she is one of 3 minor alleged victims in Maxwell's indictment.
She has never shown any remorse for her heinous crimes or for the devastating, lasting impact her actions have caused.
Maxwell's lawyer telling the judge our client is not Jeffrey Epstein and she has been the target of essentially endless media spin. But prosecutors allege Maxwell tried covering up her tracks. During Tuesday's hearing, prosecutors claim Maxwell toured this New Hampshire mansion using a fake name, Janet Marshall. They say Maxwell also made no mention that she was married, how long she'd been married, or what assets she and her spouse had. Maxwell's in solitary confinement in a New York City jail. Now, she could still appeal that bond refusal. Otherwise, the next time we'll likely see her is a year from now in July for the start of her trial. Zoreen Shah, ABC News, Los Angeles.
One of the largest collections of jazz music by Black artists being gifted to SDSU.
It really dropped me to my knees.
Coming up, a closer look at the rarities dating back to the 1920s.
Hyundai is recalling more than 270,000 cars here in the U.S. There is a socket that can cause a fire in the dashboard. Now, this impacts certain Elantra, Sonata, Accent, and Veloster models between 2011 and 12. There have been fires reported, but no one has been hurt. Hyundai is still working on a repair. Some iPhone users could be owed $25. Apple settled a class action lawsuit for slowing down older devices. That included the iPhone 6 and 7. Now, you can submit a claim at smartphoneperformancesettlement.com. You do need to give the serial number for that phone before October, and the device had to be bought before 2018 and had performance issues.
One of the largest collections of jazz music by Black artists is being gifted to San Diego State University. ABC 10 News anchor Mary McKenzie talked to the archivist who will be in charge of it.
It really dropped me to my knees.
A vast collection of jazz music, including works by John Coltrane, Sun Ra, and Dizzy Gillespie. Nearly 500,000 recordings, most of those on vinyl records, and it'll be part of a planned gift to San Diego State Special Collections by Bram and Sandra Dykstra when they pass away. It's Bram's collection of the world's greatest black musicians, amassed over nearly 65 years.
He listened to everything. He loved everything. All of it spoke to his soul.
The John Coltrane Memorial Black Music Archive spans almost 100 years of music. It includes nearly every known recording of its namesake. Robert Ray heads the Special Collections Department. He says this collection is transformative for SDSU, allowing them to have an extensive sound archive virtually overnight.
If the university and others just open up this treasure chest and begin to embrace the possibilities, that as they do that in the future, they will be making the future.
Ray says the collection will also propel SDSU closer to being among the top-tier research universities in the country. Mary McKenzie, ABC 10 News.
The American Red Cross is looking for some heroic San Diegans. Nominations are now open for the 18th annual Real Heroes Award. There are several categories, including Good Samaritan, law enforcement, animal welfare, gift of life, and much more. The nomination deadline is next Wednesday. Forms are available on the Red Cross website. Recipients chosen in each category will be honored in a virtual ceremony September 25th.
Well, the moon may not have been around for as long as we actually thought. NASA's scientists say a new analysis of lunar rock from the Apollo 16 mission suggests it is 200 million years younger than we thought. The moon is thought to have formed from melted material created by a large impact early on in our solar system's existence. Scientists count its age from when the material solidified. The lunar rock that was studied shows it solidified much later than previously thought. Scientists say there is also a chance that one sample is not an accurate representation.
This 10 News Pinpoint Weather Report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air. Nobody wows clients like we do.
10 News meteorologist Angelica Campos joining us from home again. She's the lady that can tell us how the moon will look tonight and if it's a good night for looking at it.
It will be. At the coast, we're going to see nocturnal clouds, but I'm just going to guess that the moon is probably happy to know that it's a lot younger. As we look now at PB, you can see a few of those clouds already in place, which they will be streaming farther east as we go into tonight, potentially getting all the way to the 15. So areas like Escondido, Poway could see clouds overnight. We're just going to sit here and watch that. Just beautiful. A great day to be at the beach. Nice and a nice cool breeze. We can say it's cooler now. 73 degrees, comfortable in San Diego. Overlooking from Coronado with the winds there out of the west at 9 miles per hour. But in downtown San Diego, the wind gusts are actually up to 17 miles an hour. In Julian, 14. Not too bad in Warner Springs or Mount Laguna, where the winds average at 12. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen temperatures drop a few degrees. In Escondido, 2 degrees lower in Poway, 3 degrees cooler in Julian. But on the coast, actually 1 to 2 degrees warmer today, and earlier this afternoon the difference was up to 5 degrees warmer. Temperatures are back in the mid-70s in Oceanside, 71 Carlsbad, 67 La Jolla. A comfortable day in Ramona with 81 degrees as temperatures make their way back to near normal for this time of the year. So pleasant for today, comfortable again tomorrow, warmer on Friday and into the weekend. And next week we could be talking about monsoonal moisture, maybe even the possibility for some pop-up thunderstorms. We really haven't had to mention that too much so far this summer. All the moisture has been driven by the evaporation rates of the warm water over the ocean. You can see the clouds tonight into tomorrow at 6 a.m. There it is, Escondido, Poway, maybe even Ramona could see some of those clouds by 9 a.m. It'll clear, becoming mostly sunny all around the county. And as we look at the overall pattern here, looking at the upper levels of the atmosphere, the main flow is zonal, which means everything is basically from west to east. So any storms or any cool down is just going to be parked exactly where it's been. And the same is true for the heat. It'll grow, and that's why we'll see the temperatures increasing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as the ridge of high pressure over the plains just kind of expands some of that heat. But it will subside slightly next week. Instead, we get the trade-off of the winds mostly out of the south, pulling in some monsoonal moisture potentially by the middle of next week. But for tomorrow, it's all about comfort. 75, a nice sea breeze, cool sea breeze to make us feel good as you go outside or go for a run. Inland communities, mid-80s, perfect for this time of the year. I've heard from a lot of our viewers, and they all seem to agree that they want more days like today. So we'll make that happen again tomorrow. Just a degree warmer on Friday, but over the weekend you're going to notice the difference. Now, if you want more days like today, we have to jump to next week, Wednesday 86. But the difference is going to be the humidity that will be increasing, starting from the deserts, building towards the mountains, and eventually making its way inland. In the mountains, 78 degrees, a beautiful day tomorrow. Deserts will range around 109 degrees, with the winds out of the west gusting at times between 15 to up to 30 miles per hour. Back to the studio.
All right, thanks, Angelica.